live stream today. Welcome to my Cactus live stream. I made it. I'm here. I was pretty sick yesterday, but it got a little better overnight. So yeah, I'm somewhat able to do the stream without sneezing, and that is a huge thing. Great success. And yeah, I'm back, and I brought a lot of stuff that I wanted to show you. I brought seedlings. I brought also seedlings that I fertilized because I wanted to show you how much they have grown since I fertilized them 2 days ago. It often goes pretty fast. Cactus seedlings react very fast to fertilizer, to water. You can also see it on large plants, but on the little ones, they are visibly growing then. And yeah, I want to show you that. And today I brought this here. Check it out. These are food takeaway containers. In particular, these are for salad, takeaway containers for salad. I'm not really fond of plastics in literally any industry. These are great because you can reuse them. So I'm using them until I have a similar like alternative, something that is healthier, for nature. But for now, these are standard for sowing out by a lot of people. I usually do not use them. This is what we have used in the past here on the stream. But today I want to do a little live stream where we're sowing out into these two, just to show you the differences and whatever. And I recommend if you can get something like this in a way that that's a little bit more healthy for the planet, like stuff that doesn't take so long to break down. I'm not sure what kind of alternatives they have. I bought these 7 8 years ago, 6 7 years ago. I'm not sure. I bought them and I haven't used them since. That is how few of them I need right now. Simply because this is easier. We've been sowing out in containers like this, square pots, and the square pots already have holes, drainage holes at the bottom. You can do it you can like just drill holes into these, but it's a little bit of extra work, and they are not really made to have holes in them. They will break easily. They are a little bit less hardy than the square pots. But yeah, later, after we induce germination, after the time where we need the humidity, then maybe we're drilling a bunch of holes into them to see how much better it gets through that, because you need drainage later on. In the first 3 months, maybe 3 to 6 months, it isn't so necessary. So this could be a thing where you can sow out into them and then later switch into square pots, into bigger square pots. When the first repotting is necessary, then you can repot them into square pots. With the square pots here, it saves you a little bit time when you only have a bunch of seedlings per container. You can leave them in there for another year sometimes. It's not really great, I believe the more often you repot, the more often the better the seedlings grow. So that is something that I've always seen. The more you forget about a seedling that you have in the soil somewhere and it stays in that soil for a long time, the more likely it gets that you have problems with pH level. Fertilizing just changes the pH level and all kinds of stuff that's happening. So after a certain time, it can be beneficial to repot them anyways, But if you have a few seedlings per square pot, that will save you the time in the first months. But again, welcome to my stream, guys. Today we will be trying out the takeaway sow out technique, sowing out in food containers. These are made for salad. That's how they are sold. And and you can grow little things in it. It's not so tall, so these are not really perfect, but for showing it, for experimenting with it, that will be great. And yeah, I'm back for the stream today. I was pretty ill yesterday, but I somehow over the night it got better. So I'm very happy that I'm here today without sneezing. I hope it doesn't start, but for now it's good. And yeah, I brought seedlings that I want to go through. I still have seeds. I brought soil to sow out. Yeah, and we will try that out. We will try out the food takeaway technique, which is basically a follow-up method to the original Fleischer method, that is named after a person called Fleischer, Dr. Fleischer or Mr. Fleischer, and he kind of started sowing out cactus seedlings in glasses, in large, that they used to do for food, like when you do something where you preserve the food that you put in it, these large glasses. You can use these also to grow cacti in it, for example. But it's a little bit more expensive than when you buy stuff that is, very cheap to produce, like plastic square pots, the bags that we use. So yeah, the original method was probably the Fleischer method. Came out, I don't know, 70s, 80s, maybe a little bit earlier. And since then, this thing has evolved over food takeaway containers, and you can usually take everything that is clear, that lets, out. It doesn't even matter if it's clear on the outside at the lower part, because the root section, it's good when it doesn't get so much light, but you have to make sure that the seedlings are above that level then. So yeah, we will try that out and compare it to the others. I have discarded that method with the food takeaway containers, because I needed to repot one additional time after having the seedlings. Let's say you have 4 months old seedlings, and then at a certain point you need more drainage in this thing, so you either have to drill the holes in it then, or repot, and I often repot then. If you would drill the holes in it right away in the beginning, then you wouldn't be able to generate the humidity in this thing that you need to do that. And now we are sowing out in square pots and have them in a plastic bag. The plastic bag can be reused, and you can take this thing out, and it has drainage holes. It's really important, because also in the beginning, if you start watering them like larger plants, this can become a huge problem, because the water will be pooling in anything that doesn't have drainage holes, and that can lead to all kinds of infections. They're just not water plants. Okay, so let's get started. Maybe let's get started with the soil, with sowing out and that stuff first, because I have the soil lying around here, and I don't want it to be infested with fungus gnat flies. So yeah, here's the soil. This is classic sowing soil. Cost is very cheap, few bucks for a big bag, and since you don't need so much for seedlings, it is rather affordable. So let's fill this thing up, and with these, if you fill the whole thing up, let's say you fill the whole container, when you put the lid on, there's no more space for the seedling. So when you're working with something like this, since the seedling in the first months needs the humidity, you can't just induce germination and take it off, because that would be too early. The seedlings don't take that kind of low humidity. So you would have to just fill it up half. That gives you a few centimeters, a little bit upwards, that the seedlings can grow. And then the moment they are big enough, you can take this thing off. And when I say big enough, let me show you. maybe something like this. And this is 2-3 months, something like that, 2.5 months. And that is already the size where they can take the normal humidity, but only if you spray them. And I want to discuss that later too, because some of the containers that I took out of the bags, they need a lot more water than I thought. Hey, welcome to the stream. Great to have you. I'm back. I'm doing a little better today, so I'm very happy that I'm back in the stream. Yesterday I had pretty, like, a few bad hours yesterday. I'm not sure what it was, or if it comes back. It might very well come back, but for now I made it. I'm very happy. So yeah, and when I put the soil into these, you can use them to just press on the soil, you know, like to have a solid ground. What you do not want is to have a moon landscape below that goes up and down and up and down, or might even be puffy. Puffy soil might be great for roots to grow to grow through, but a little bit stability is necessary for the seedlings. And you take away light from the seedlings because you constantly have something that is over them, taking away the light that they need in the beginning. So yeah, we will try leaving just a little. It is possible that this isn't enough, but we will see. This is just maybe 1.5 centimeters, and yeah, that should actually be enough to get them to the size that I have just shown you. If you would measure them now, they would be roughly that size. I'm not so worried if they slightly press against the top of this thing, but at some point you need to take it off. And you get these in all kinds of shapes. Some are better than others. Some are better suited for sowing out than others. Like I said, this is a food takeaway container, a salad dish container, something like that. You know, they put in, like when you are buying something at some sort of a food van, they often put different types of salad in this thing, and you can get them. They are cheap. I don't know, 500 for $20, something like that. And you can buy them with lid, without lid. I really recommend, if you buy something like that, food container, don't get something that is round, because you're wasting a lot of space by doing that. You just can't stack them so well. You can't put them besides each other so well. You will just have additional space that that goes away, that you don't have for them. So yeah, I also work with pots that were deeper. That would, it would mean you can leave them in there longer. But again, you will have to make sure there's drainage at the bottom then. So you would have to kind of drill holes into this thing with the seedlings in it, because it's so hard to take them out. So yeah, and you can't drill the holes in it right away, because you want this thing to hold the humidity. You could drill them and glue it shut, but it's a lot of work. So yeah, we will just experiment. We would show that. And yeah, I will fill maybe 6 of them, and then we can compare those. We can show how they do in these kind of square containers instead. It's not a big difference in the beginning. Whatever method you use, it will be all right if you know how to treat them. Then they need a lot of water once you take them out, and as long as you do that, it is secondary where they are in. A good grower can react to. You need to be able to look at the soil and judge whatever they need, and that should, a big part of that comes down to water management. Water management is one of the most essential things when you're growing cacti, and a lot of other plants too. I mean, every plant has different needs in regards to water, humidity. So that is the big thing, in my opinion. And that allows you to react to almost every problem. Even infections are often related to water management, because poor water management, poor availability of water brings out infections very fast. Skin problems, and not only that, but also mealybug. Mealybug often happens on plants that haven't seen water, like they would see in nature, you know, like these protected clusters where you have them in a heated room that doesn't get rain, that doesn't get humidity. So it all comes down to water somehow. Water is life, and it's so necessary here. So yeah, I had stopped working with these kinds of things maybe 6 years ago, 7 years ago, I think. And it's going better without them. So I'm not starting again. But I bought these like in bulk, and I still have a lot of them. So every now and then I'm taking them out to experiment, to just compare. And I need to leave a little space here for the seedlings, where the seedlings will grow. Taller containers are also possible, but the little seedlings in the first 6 months, they don't really root that much. And if once they have rooted this thing through, I would rather repot them anyways, recommend to single them out already at that point. But yeah, in most cases, you will not need that much space for roots unless you leave them in for years. We're only talking about the first months. Repotting seedlings is just very common. It's something that you have to do all the time. And if you don't do it, you lose the seedlings. It's sometimes so easy. Of course, there's also many chances when you have the seedlings in the same soil, all goes well. But, you know, it's a numbers game. You will also have the other cases. Okay, yeah, I brought way too much soil, I guess. So, and I don't want to leave it lying around, so maybe I will fill a few more. But yeah, it's not good to leave too much soil lying around, because there's always the pests that like to find it, and then you're losing containers. And welcome everyone to the Cactus stream. Appreciate you guys being here. Always happy to take questions if you run into something that that doesn't work out. Always happy to help. Yeah. I would love to leave a little bit more space, but then you also lose more light. That's a good thing where you can see that it is not ideal. It's not. There are no perfect ways to do this. A lot of different methods can work. But it's like potting them. You need to pot them a little deeper, because otherwise there's no space for the seedling to grow. You can get deeper pots again, like deeper salad dishes. They are also sold in all dimensions. But it's also a space issue. You know, you're wasting a lot of space the taller they are, because if you really want to leave them in these kind of things, they might break down if you put them into the sun long term. You know, they might not be UV treated like some of the square pots are, and they will shatter. They will get a lot of UV light and shatter, or they will get a little bit frost. So if you want to, it makes sense to get smaller ones, use smaller ones, and then repot. Okay, so this is good. We have a lot of cacti to sow out. I don't want to do more than this. But again, classic sowing soil, nothing fancy. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. sometimes are just used so widely because they are good, and sowing soil has everything it needs. At some point you will have to fertilize, but that is even worse with the mineral medias like pumice. They are basically inert. Okay, so, and these are the lids. The lids are separate here. There are some that have the lids attached to them, and I recommend not to use that because they are always in the way. Let's say you have a lid and you're not sure if you already want to remove it completely. So you have it like this, and it's always in the way. So make sure if you try to sow out in takeaway containers, then get some with removable lid. I think they are a little bit more expensive, but for this purpose, it just makes sense. Okay. Yeah, and then you can staple them. That is the good thing. If space really is an issue, you could put them like this in front of a window, and they would get light, somewhat light. Not great, but we're talking about cactus seedlings. Cactus seedlings do not need the same amount of light that larger plants need. They're so sensitive. If you're in doubt, it's often better to play it safe and give them a little less light. Yeah, I think this is just one. Sometimes I'm not sure if this is a double, when they're stuck in each other, but I think it's just one. Okay. And then we're sowing something out here. Oh, by the way, let me just show you something before we're doing that. I brought some of the vegetables that I've sown out, and this is tomato seeds that were 15 years old, a good 15 years old, and I have a germination in there. But I also saw that there's a fungal problem that it had, so it isn't healthy, But yeah, 15-year-old seeds have come up pretty well. I was positively surprised by that. Just trying to see what the problem is. Something had started a fungal infection here. But the seedlings themselves, they look all right. Maybe we can save them. Okay. So yeah, tomato seeds from 15 years ago. Unbelievable. Sometimes when you have old seeds lying around, try it out. In many cases, they are still viable. I once bought a collection of seeds, just nothing fancy, just classic indoor plants and stuff. And a lot of them were still viable, like 1/3 maybe. Not all. There's some plants that have a very short viability, but in many cases you can get plants from really old seeds. I've seen cactus seedlings from 100 years old seeds that were in a book somewhere, like put away in a book, in an old cactus book, and they came up. Ariocarpus seeds in that case. So I would always try to sow out old seeds. Okay, let me see what we have here. 18A 2000. Arboricola, Hilde Winterer. I'm not sure what we should sow out here. Here's Teleflora. Let's sow out Teleflora for one. That is a good one that I wanted to sow out recently. I've been talking about that one a lot in the stream. Here, Lubivia, Sylvia, I like them. This is Hageocerois. But it looks like there's only one seed. But maybe if we get one seedling from that one seed, it might be worth it to sow it out. Okay, these here are good. These are good. Okay, this is already nice. So I flattened the soil here. Hey, welcome to the stream. Yeah, it's like good quality seeds are sometimes a good investment. Sometimes the older the seeds are, the less healthy they grow. Maybe try it with a different type of strain, different breeder. Maybe so many good, amazing seeds out there. I would love to have more space. Every time I'm on the internet, I look around, I see something that I really like. There's really so much out there. Okay, so let's start here. This is Teleflora. I talked about it a lot. The people who see it on a regular basis. It's a hybrid between Sorensia telegona and Echinopsis aeresi grandiflora. Some sort of an Echinopsis. It's not the same as classic Trichocereus grandiflorus, and the grandiflora that is often referred to. But a classic Echinopsis, and which one has been debated over the years, because I think the original one was lost. It's one of those botanical species that have been around so long that they have been hybridized so much that you can't really say if what you have is actually the right plant. So yeah, good example of hybridizing like done wrong. And but yeah, with these Echinopsis, like Echinopsis oxygona, if you look at them, they are so easy to grow. Normal people have them, and they kind of pollinate themselves. So people have seeds and sow them out, and what they grow might already be hybrid. So with some cacti, the hybridization of the first couple of hundred years was so bad that you couldn't tell what the original plant was like. Let's say you want to use it for DNA testing, you couldn't even say that you have the right one, because you sometimes don't have another specimen from the type of stuff that they had a couple of hundred years ago. Some Echinopsis are very old. They were among the first kind of cacti that people grew because they were so easy to grow. Okay. So this is from yesterday. Seeds of a hybrid between gnome and tunariensis. Yeah, I cleaned these yesterday, and I might sow them out, but for now I want to do something else. So gnome, tunariensis, and tunariensis here, take it with a grain of salt. There's a lot of plants making the rounds with the name tunariensis that are probably something else. So yeah, okay, Teleflora. And these are from the 2025 season. I never had so many seeds on that plant than in that season. Seven fruit or something like that, 7 or 8. Was really nice. And I hope that we will get a bunch of healthy seedlings here. The big size of the fruit here, this was a relatively big fruit for Teleflora. The big size definitely is a good indicator that genetic health could be a thing here, Teleflora has problems. It's not that it isn't beautiful, but the seedlings are often variegated, something like that, Okay. The soil is a little bit too puffy now. Now we need to spray it. So I need the water sprayer. If I water it with the can, it will lift up the seeds and bury the seeds from like under the top layer of soil. Need to be very careful when you when you water this, like when the soil is a little bit too dry, sowing out becomes a little more difficult. Okay. Little label for this, Teleflora. All right, and yes, and now I will close this thing up. I was just talking German. I was just every now and then a German word comes through, and I was saying, and jetzt means now. So yeah, so now we close this thing, and this can go to the heater. You could put it at a heater. You could put a lamp above it also to speed things up a little. Humidity, I think we got it right. There should be no water pooling. Also not in these, you know, if you have too much water in these, it becomes a real problem. You have it, then it's a swamp. Then it's a swamp that takes the seeds down. So you need to be careful that it's not, that you do not have water collecting at the bottom here. Okay. Next one. These are seeds of a Echinopsis subdenudata hybrid, where I collected seeds, and I collected seeds with a sticker. What happened was that an ant or a slug had eaten the fruit, and only left a few seeds behind. The seeds were lying around on the floor all around the plant, and it's not easy to pick little seeds from the ground. So I got a sticker and tried to lift them up, and this is what I got. So I'm very happy that I even have these few seeds here. I almost didn't get any. And the cross was really good. This was Echinopsis subdenudata crossed with something like Fast 12. I think it was Fast 12. So really a promising cross. I think from 2024, but they should still be good. Okay, also spraying a little bit. Not too much, just to have an even moisture in the whole thing, and a lot of this water will sink down. You always need to keep that in mind when you're watering. Okay. I really want to have a hybrid with Echinopsis subdenudata that has big flowers, really big flowers, super nice multicolored flowers, something like that. And there's potential. It's a good plant. Okay, this is empty now. This is Hageocerois hybrid. Let's see if we even have a viable seed. I don't think so. Maybe. I only saw one or two viable seeds, if at all. You sometimes can't tell in the bag. But even if there was just one seed in here, in this thing, I would still want to sow it out. Because that is the kind of hybrid. Hageocerois is not a cactus that is widely used for breeding. And yeah, everything with Hageocerois has potential. I have one that has a pink stigma, really beautiful, really nice for breeding, could be great. So even if I only get one viable seeds from that thing, I would sow it out. I would give it a try. We can only fail. You know, if we don't try, we never know what would have come from these. Yeah, the larger Trichocerois columnar cacti, they often need a little bit more water, more energy. And if you really want them to flower fast, you have to start watering early, or at least when you there are some breeders that wait with the watering until the first flower buds show. There are different styles that you know, different kind of roads that you can take. But I know breeders, they wait until they see the very first flower buds, and then only then they start watering. That is something you could try. Or what I do, I start watering early on, maybe mid-March, and then I give so much water that they just have to flower eventually. Because flowering on a large plant needs a lot of energy. And that is just something that people who grow them where they don't flower don't take into account. In summer, I'm watering all the time. They get water with a hose, you know, so I don't have to carry a lot of heavy water cans. But in summer, the soil often doesn't even dry up in between, and that is something that they always tell you not to do. But that is something that doesn't apply to me in summer. In summer, they are doing great with having a little bit of water accessible to them, especially when it's getting hot. You know, when it's really hot. When these days come, right now, the way that the summer is right now, we get ultra hot phases where they will get drought anyway, you know. And if you can give them a little bit of an advantage early on, starting maybe April, watering already until June when the flowering starts, that gives you 2 months, 3 months sometimes that they take to develop the flower buds. And yeah, that's time that I'm always watering. My style is basically having a lot of water available early on, when you lay the groundwork for the flowers that come up 2 months later, you know. But because it always takes a little bit of time, and when you start watering too late, then the plant kind of has in mind that it wouldn't be able to grow the flowers, grow the fruit in one season. So they might not flower at all, and maybe wait for the next year, you know. Yeah, if you can plant your cacti out, that is great. I would love to do it. I would love to be able to do it. That is easiest, because there's just a lot of stuff that you cannot replicate indoors, like the classic nature things, you know. It is very complicated creating such an environment with different seasons, with different different phases between cold and hot, light, more light, and, you know, humidity that rains on them carefully. That is something that you just cannot 100% replicate indoors. Some people have healthy plants. That isn't it, you know. It's not about growing a plant. It's about making it thrive, getting it to thrive and flower. And that is still hard indoors, especially for the big ones. Okay, Hageoceros echinopsis. I think this is the one with the pink stigma. And the fruit size, I think you've seen what I said about the number of seeds in this fruit. If we have 1 or 2 seedlings, that's great. The fruits of Hageoceros are very small. And when you're trying to make hybrids, they get even smaller. Hey, mate. Greetings to Tasmania. Great to have you. I appreciate it. I'm back today. I lived. Yesterday I was really feeling like terrible. Had some sort of a flu coming on. I hope it doesn't come back, because today it's much better. I'm so glad that I could make it to the stream. Okay, so here's one. These are called Wurzel. These are from the Wurzel hybrid, a hybrid between Wörlitz and Cantora Gelb. I don't know who named it that. You know, it's just the name of the breeder or the person who raised it from seeds. I think the breeder is Reinhard Liske, but this is just that one hybrid that came from Mr. Wurzel, and that's a name for root in German. So everyone started calling it that. And the flower is very different to Pink Stripes. I don't like it as much as Pink Stripes. Pink Stripes is just the standard, but it's also very good in regards to the color. Flowers are smaller. I'm not sure if I would continue to breed with it long term because of the small flower size. As soon as I have a bunch of more hybrids with something like Bamboy, bigger kind of flower hybrids with similar color, I might actually sort this one out. But for now, there's a lot of potential in it still. If you can imagine that kind of color of Pink Stripes, it would really improve every kind of flower, or at least add something to every kind of flower. You know, it's a lot about taste and what you like, but it's a very unusual kind of color theme. Yeah, I hope you're better now. I don't know what it is, but everyone's sick right now. I've had an appointment last week, I think, and this is the result, you know. I suspect I got COVID again, something like that, you know. But when they always say you should like self-isolate, you know, that's just my normal life, so it's not a problem if it's COVID, you know. I'm isolating anyway. That's just normal for me. That's just Thursday. So yeah, but I was really, there were a few hours yesterday when I was delirious, really delirious. I was lying there and I was sleeping, and you know, when you are kind of having these fever dreams, that kind of stuff, fever hallucinations kind of stuff. But yeah, it got better through the night, and I'm so thankful. Okay. Yeah, not many seeds, by the way. The fruits are very small on this hybrid. Also, I have two different plants, and both of them have the same sized small flower, small fruit, small flower and small fruit. So I water it before now, just a little, just to have a little bit of moisture on top of the soil. And now I spread the seeds here, giving it one last mist, and that's it. Will be interesting to see how these will turn out in the containers, in the takeaway containers. In my opinion, this has happened like with the spread of the containers has started because a lot of people have been pushing that on the Cactus forums in the early years. This was how the people earlier did it, you know, like in this kind of stuff. This was one of the methods that I did when I got started. And over the years, I always experimented with other stuff, but it's solid, you know. It's not something, there are things that you can improve because it doesn't have the drainage holes and that kind of stuff, you know. But it's not bad. They get a lot of light. You can control the humidity with the lid. It's cheap, which was always a huge thing for me. When I wanted to sow out, you know, it always, you have to buy soil, you have to buy the seeds, you have to buy the containers, and those were cheaply available at the time. I'm not sure how it's going long term, and I hope they will have an alternative to plastic like this, you know. But they can be reused. They can be reused as long as they are not a mess. As long as they are not full of, I don't know, fungus gnat, mealybug. If you have mealybug in them, please throw them away. Put them in the recycling bin. But apart from that, I don't work like in a sterile environment. I don't believe in that. The seeds will never be sterile. You can disinfect them and all, but sterility is so hard to achieve, and then it's a question if they even want that, you know, like that sterile environment. sometimes a little bit of healthy living soil is not a bad thing. So yeah. Okay, let's I will put these aside. I want to have different seeds. I want to sow out, but I want to sow out something good. You know, when I look at the label, I want to feel, yeah, this is it. This is going into the soil today, and I haven't had that right now. So I want to put these aside. We will sow the other 6. We will fill these the next time, tomorrow probably. And these are ready to go to the heater. I just press these against the heater. I'm not worried about heat. In the beginning, a little bit of heat wakes them up. You can, when you have a lot of heat, you can also have the bad luck to have a germination of something like a cobweb mold that covers all the seeds. You can reduce the chance to that by cleaning them well, by washing the seeds well. In the previous streams, I have cleaned seeds dry, in a dry way, just by, like the little lobelia fruit, for example. They don't have a lot of pulp, so you can sometimes clean those without even having to use water. But using water to clean seeds kind of reduces the pathogens that are on the water. You could disinfect the seeds, but be careful. Some stuff like copper, it decreases the viability of stuff. I would never use a lot of the harsher kind of chemicals or anything disinfectant on seedlings, on seeds, because you always have to keep in mind it might negatively influence the viability of the seeds. So yeah. 800 milliliter soup containers is someone using in the chat. Can work. They are not. I think this is 250 milliliters. So you would have a much bigger container, and it has positives and negatives. You know, if you want to sow out 1,000 seeds of one type, then that is probably a better approach. But if you have a problem in that one thing with 1,000 seedlings, you will have a problem with all of them, you know, or you can have that, you know. So the bigger the container, the bigger the risk if you lose, if you drop it, if something happens. I often try to spread it out, to reduce the risk, to mitigate the risks a little bit. But if you are sowing out a lot of seeds of the same type, a bigger container can also make sense, you know. There are people that sow out a lot of seeds just to look for the mutant seedlings or something like that, you know, that can work. Or to select the fastest growing, the strongest growing seedlings. Can also make sense to go with bigger. Okay, let's go through the containers here that I brought. And I brought some that I fertilized too. So we can have a look at how much they have grown within a week. Maybe later today, I would set up a time lapse camera to show growth on seedlings on time lapse camera. Will be interesting. Maybe it will be a waste of time because they grow a little too slow, but I will try to push them a little. So we have visible growth on the time lapse. Okay, these look good. Looking good. Soil is a little too wet, a little bit too comfortable, too good for fungus gnats. There's a little moss on both sides here, but for now it can stay. If this continues to grow, I will remove it. I have nothing against moss, but it belongs into the garden and not into my containers. Okay. So these are starting to look really good, coming out of the pot even. Check it out. Age 2 months, I guess. If you want to know it for certain, you can look at the dates when we've been sowing them out. So this is KA 2023 144. Flying Dragon Cantora, I think. But I'm not entirely sure. and Cantora and Flying Dragon. I have discussed that plant a few times also, and it is a very fast growing kind of plant. Type of plant that you don't need to graft, because on their own roots at some point it will pick up and will outperform a grafting stock. How old are these? In between 2 months and maybe 1 month. We are constantly sowing out stuff here. So, but the oldest ones, I think we started maybe a little bit over 2 months ago. Yeah, and that's the age. They have been in the bag since then, under a plant lamp, under a somewhat decent plant lamp, and you don't need to spend a lot of money. We are growing cactus seedlings. They don't need a lot of light. Actually, if they would get too much light, they might, slowly but steadily start to dribble away. These are looking okay. I don't like the color, but this is variegation probably. You can see a range between green, yellowish, and whitish. And it makes sense since this is a wider cross, intergeneric hybrid cross between a columnar and something like Verlitz pink stripes as father. Here's a seedling that is completely white. I personally believe it doesn't have a chance. Yeah, they're doing good. They're on a good road. Just in general, like the seedlings that we have grown, having a good lamp really, really plays a big role. You don't need it, but if you have one that really produces a healthy growth, that brings you through the difficult phase in the beginning faster. In the beginning is the time when you can lose them because of almost everything. Too much heat, too cold, too wet, too dry. You could, every extreme could be too much. So having them indoors where you can control the environment is pretty crucial. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Moss, I hate it, and too deep, potted a little too deep. But the seedlings look good. They are under a strong lamp. Later on, I just hope that they will have outgrown that kind of little gap that I have there, where I should have put in more sowing soil. I really try to fill up the pots, and it's something that I didn't do all the time, but I started doing when I noticed that the more soil you have available to the seedlings, the better. In some cases, you will have to transplant them, but not always. Sometimes you just have them in there and you keep them there for a while, and that little piece of extra space that they have is a little bit of extra soil that they can grow in. Do you repot them depending on size or age? Usually when I have to. Right now, I'm growing so many plants. I try to have them indoors for as long as I need, because right now in the beginning they're just so sensitive, so you need to have an eye on them. And in the beginning, once they are past that point where they can really disappear from one day to another, if you are beyond that, then there's not a lot of reason to repot them fast right away, because if I would push these really hard, I would have no space within just a few months. You could single them out very fast, and I would recommend that you do it if you want to do it right. Right now, what I do, I repot them when I realize, okay, they have outgrown the pot, and that is some sort of a middle ground in between pushing them hard, doing everything you can to always pot them up repeatedly. It can double or triple the growth speed that they have if you repot often. But right now, I have more time. I have more time available. I no longer really have to graft a seedling and get it to flower within 2 years or 3 years. I don't really have that urgency anymore. I just know that good things take time in life, and I give them a little bit more to in between repotting. There will be a time when there's a problem, whether it's the soil not looking good, whether it's running out of space, seedlings running out of space, that kind of stuff. Or if you have a fungal infection that started with one seedling and you want to avoid that you have the pathogen still in the soil, and then you will have to repot very, very fast anyway. So yeah, usually I don't repot until they are 6 months old, and usually it does a lot of heavy lifting, because we have on the stream transplanted little seedlings that have just been 3 weeks ago or so. Sometimes you just have to do it. These, yeah, look great, look healthy, green. This is Lobivia winteriana seedlings, and I'm amazed by how healthy they grow. I want to have these indoors because Lobivia winteriana is just known to be so a little bit frost tender, and it's always so ridiculous, that you have a species that is named winteriana and it can't take the winter. But yeah, they are just a little bit more frost tender. I usually try to give the warmest spots in the greenhouse to the Lobivia winteriana. They can't take shade. They can't be somewhere forgotten in a corner. You really need to respect that plant. And if you don't do it, you will lose them very fast. Also, hardening them up plays a big role. I have grown stuff from seeds that was perfectly fine, but the stuff that I got from the commercial market was just not cold hardy. They don't grow them like that. They grow them all the time in a heated greenhouse sometimes. And yeah, then you bring them into real life conditions for the first time, and then that's it. Holy moly. Yeah, too many. Cactus seedling insanity, but a good kind of cross. So it still makes sense, it still makes sense to keep a lot of them. Probably not so many, but everything that you see here, every seedling can look different. Every seedling can have a different flower. These are all flower hybrids, and when you grow from seeds, you have an immense diversity. That is true not only for hybrids, but also everything that you grow from seeds. And that is just, if you think about it, it's just evolution. It is just one tool of evolution, because you have that natural variety, that variability that you have, where they develop into different directions at some point. You have a population that where some sort of trait comes out dominantly, and then they develop with that trait into different direction, over sowing out over multiple generations. It's all evolution in a way, if you think about it. These are looking okay. Also, a lot of seedlings for a small container, but for now, it's okay. The soil is very dry, and I want to leave it like that. The seedlings don't look too dehydrated, a little bit, a tiny little bit, but that is okay. I have no problem with a little dehydration here and there, as long as you can see that they are healthily growing. But it's a fine line. If you have a bone dry soil in something like this, you always have humidity on the wall, but that doesn't mean it's enough for the seedlings to grow, for all of the seedlings to grow. So you have to keep an eye on that, If necessary, put in a little bit more water. The only risk that comes in addition to that, by bringing in more water, is that it is a soil moisture that fungus gnats really like. And that's why I like to have it a little bit drier in this generation of seedlings. Yeah, whole lot of seedlings, all healthy, looking great. At some point, you have so many good ones. You know, there's so many different kind of directions you can take with hybrid breeding. And if you really look at it from a right point of view, you see potential everywhere. That makes it so hard to say, yeah, we're sorting these out before you have seen the flower. I try to keep everything until I see the flower of a few per cross, 1 or 2 of each cross, and then I can carefully kind of decide if I want to sort out the whole cross or not. And when you do that, it can so much backfire. That is something that I talked about with Uwe Kahle. He said he and I, we had the same experience. We have sorted out immensely amazing plants too early, you know, because at some point you will have to make a decision. You have to, as a breeder, constantly. You cannot wait for every plant to flower. And if you have seen a bunch, you know, you sometimes can see a range. You can say that there won't be that one plant in that whole cross that won't be exceptional. That can always happen. But it's a numbers game. You are trying to calculate the likelihood that something will be great if you have already seen a few flowers and they were mediocre. So there's a high likelihood that the last one will also have that. And yeah, unfortunately, that's something every breeder probably has to do. Also good, lot of seedlings, but healthy, spiny. Little seedling ball here, and that is when they kind of form these roundish structures of seedlings. And the bigger they get, the more they sometimes lose contact with the soil, you know, forming the ball, and it lifts them up out of the soil just because all the seedlings press against each other. And at that point, you might have to single them out. If you have, like, if the seedlings lose control, lose touch with the soil, because of how many seedlings are in that thing, then you have to do something. Until then, if seedlings don't really press against the walls, you know, because the walls are firm, and when the seedling presses against it, eventually it can lead to an infection. As long as that doesn't happen, having them like crowdedly a little bit is a good thing. Hey, Robert. Yes, I'm feeling a little better today. I can't say that it won't come back during the day, but for now, I'm doing fine. I was amazed. You know, yesterday I took photos of my nose because the nose was so red. I wanted to post it, but it was an abnormal looking red nose. People would have called me Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer and that kind of stuff, so I haven't posted it. But I had the reddest nose yesterday. Yeah, good luck. Someone just wrote that they put in pollen into the flower for pollination. I hope it works. Should work. They are both pretty close, both species that you wrote down there. Scopolycola, Bridgesi, they are pretty close. Should work. Good luck. Okay, so yeah, let's have a look at these. These are Teleflora, you know? We've discussed that earlier. Teleflora, it's just they barely grow. You have a lot of tiny seedlings here and they grow very slow. That doesn't have to mean that they won't really go anywhere. I will give them time. I've been doing this long enough to know that you do not sort out the weird kind of cross that grows slower, because that can often mean you have a mutated cross, something that just differs from the normal way they grow. And so we're keeping them for now. For now, the good thing is that some of them grow healthily, that they do not appear to be without chlorophyll, that they are greenish, not all, but some. And that tells me that they are probably able to produce chlorophyll without being grafted. And that's more than you can say about all of the times I've made this cross. This isn't the first offspring that I have of Teleflora. I've had many, 10, 15, I don't know. And I've seen this consistently on Teleflora. You just need a very healthy kind of partner to balance that out, that genetic thing that's going on there. But for now, it could be worse. They are growing. At least they are growing. They are small, way behind, but they are growing a little. So I would just close it up. Maybe we can get something from them. Okay, and these, they are mediocre. Also Teleflora. You see, there's a pattern. A lot of small seedlings here also. There are one or two that grow like the other Teleflora bag that I just had open. These might actually be sisters from the same cross. We'll see how this is going. There's one seedling here that is completely white. It could mean that it is full albino, or it could mean that it is just that it's beyond, you know, that it's going to the other side, meeting the ancestors soon. Sometimes the seedling doesn't make it. Okay, so here's one Lobivia offspring of Born to be Wild. Born to be Wild hybrid with Lobivia ferox, and I keep not reminding the second species that has it, that is involved in it, but also spiny one. And I would sow out everything with Born to be Wild. If you don't care for Lobivia flowers, they are smaller. You know, Lobivia flower is a little smaller. It's a different kind of plant than a columnar cactus. But if you like the color, if you like color and don't mind the smaller size, Born to be Wild is an exceptional kind of hybrid. Exceptional flower, and I've seen so much good offspring from it. I recommend to work with it. Like as a plant for breeding, it is really irreplaceable plant right now for Lobivia breeders, if you ask me. If they are not working with it, they are making a mistake, plain and simple. Okay. Yeah, a lot of seedlings. A lot of seedlings that are pushing strong against each other. You can really see how it's rounding. At some point, these will need to be taken out of this thing. Someone has to have mercy with them. I'm not sure when it will be, but at some point I will do it. But for now, space is such an issue. If I can keep them in that thing for 3 more months, then that's good. But I don't think it will be more than 3 months. Looking at them now, oh, and here we have a total loss. I don't even want to open it up. What's this? Yeah, okay, so this is a hybrid cross that really had problems with the fungus gnats, and they now claimed the others too. So this is total loss, not reusable. I mean, we can clean the pot. The square pot can be disinfected with hot water, something like that. Hot water or steam. But this goes in straight into the trash. I'm not doing anything with that. I'm not opening it up. You know, you're putting your nose into that thing and it's full of spores, full of mushroom. No, this is it. There's the line. Okay. Yeah, this looks bad. Some of them are loose because the soil was too puffy. That happens sometimes. I hate when that happens. But by having the soil drier, you also risk that you don't have the right soil structure. Soil composition, they need a they can't be surrounded by big pieces, big chunks of soil. So I need to correct a little bit here, just moving a bunch of seedlings here and there, trying to compress to push the soil a little bit down to give the seedlings the higher ground. The seedlings have to have the higher ground. Okay, here's a seedling that looks bad. I'm not sure what happened here, but it looks like it's half eaten. So maybe I will be taking them out then. When I see this kind of a seedling, I instantly know that fungus gnat could be present. And then it can be safer if the seedlings are bigger. Then they can do better outside, out of the bag. And that's what I will do now. These are big enough. They should be able to take it. If not, then that's too bad, you know. But we are spraying them all the time. It should be all right. Okay, so now here, Hilde Winterer. Okay. Genetically just sad. Check it out. You can see full variegation and overall seedlings that don't manage to produce chlorophyll, that just disappear. You would have to graft them, and be my guest if you want to do it. But I believe, I'm of the opinion that you should not keep sickly plants around. I'm not the type of breeder who, you know, holds the hands of every little plant. At some point, they need to make it under real life conditions, under greenhouse conditions. They will get a lot of water. And if I have to constantly graft something, it's just a waste of my time. Yes, bleaching the pots can also make a big difference. And it's good to do it. I heard Reinhard Liske is doing that too. To reduce fungal infections, because you can definitely spread fungal infection from container to container. So let's get back to these here. They are too small to take them out, for one. That is the first thing. They are tiny and they are variegated, which makes it even worse. You would take these out, they would be gone in 2 days, 2-3 days. And I can already see it now. There's one that is basically transparent, you know. So I will take that one out. It doesn't have a chance. Once the seedling has this weird, cloudy, transparent look, then they are gone. Nothing will bring them back. And the others, yeah, there's just so much variegation in here. And in my opinion, this might affect all of the seedlings. We will see. I will try to get one seedling to adulthood, that one seedling that makes it on the root. I don't want to have the others. You could have an amazing hybrid if you graft them, so don't really misunderstand that. It's not that it can't be worth it, but I am not willing to do it like that. At some point, you know, it's like when you're breeding with plants that just that shouldn't exist. You know, sometimes you have a hybrid, you see, okay, this is super healthy, but some other time you have one that looks like the thing, really the thing in the movie. And if that is the case, read the room, you know. But yeah, I watered it a little bit. I want to have them all they need in case they can survive on their own root. Here's one that's green, and here's one that's green. So maybe these two can make it. Long term, I think this is just not a healthy cross. But I'm very happy, you know, they can prove me wrong if they want. If they make it, I'm not sorting them out. This one, here it is. I have it. It's just right now. It when you use that one, you kind of, when you're sowing out, it can be too much pressure from the water that comes out here, because you have a lot of water coming out of this. It's a pretty big hole, and I don't want to have the seeds being covered by the soil. When you water the seedlings with a big can, that is always the risk that you wash something away. Either you wash seedlings away or seeds when you are just sowing out. It's just, in this case, this stays the official water can. It's safe. It was never good. It was never good at its job, so I don't really have high expectations. Yeah, this is one where I took it out, where I took the seedlings out, and I fertilized them, and they are looking okay. You can really see that they have grown a little, that they look a little healthier than before. But I have to spray them all the time. This morning, I had to spray them already. This is something, if you just want to spray them once a day, it can be not enough. It might not be enough. And yeah, I sprayed them yesterday evening, and this morning the soil was completely dry again. I might have to reduce the heater a little bit, but a lot of the evaporation of the water also comes from the lamp. So at some point you just have to spray them repeatedly until they are big enough. These are looking great. Fertilizer has really produced some growth. You can see they are starting to overgrow the edge of the pot. So that's great. When you start fertilizing, they will instantly react to it. If you have a good fertilizer, don't get cheap, bad kind of fertilizer that when you use it will melt the seedlings, because that can happen. Not all fertilizer can be used on seedlings, and very often, if you use it for the first time, if you have no idea, then how the seedlings will react, use like 1/5 of the dosage or something like that, really low, and then you can slowly see if they get spots or not. Fertilizer is something that is very dangerous, and that is why I use one that they are specially marketing for sensitive crops, sensitive, expensive crops, that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's a fertilizer that can touch the plant, can touch the seedling without burning it. In this one, yeah, there's the moss is starting to become an issue, in my opinion. It is growing fast, and it's moving towards the seedlings, starting to surround them. For now, it's okay. Seedlings also look a little bit delayed, rather small. I think this is Lobivia hybrid. Yeah, Lobivia hybrid with FAS 11, and really good genetics. I love it. If you would ask me what to sow out, I would say something like that. And hopefully we can get them to large size. Dry soil, very dry. And this has been sprayed. This has been sprayed just recently, like yesterday evening. Super dry again. And that is also shows the strength of sowing soil. You need to have good drainage and that kind of stuff, Sowing soil, any kind of soil that dries out very fast and can also take in water again. These are looking good. I also sprayed those, and check this out. This seedling here is already mutated. It's completely round kind of thing, and it has popped from that. Unusual for seedlings to pop that early. Seedlings, like young seedlings, they pop, but they only pop if they have no other choice. Usually a young seedling would always prioritize its own, the normal growth, the main growth. Yeah, but now that it's dry, the fungus gnats have not a chance anymore. This is the kind of drought that you need to evict fungus gnats. Not today, fungus gnat. I'm not having any squatters here in this cactus collection. You can see these are looking good, but you also they have discoloration a little bit from the lamp, from the heat and being out now. And that is something that you really need to look out for. Discolorations in seedlings when you take them out, or discolorations in seedlings when you take them to a new spot. You have them at one spot in the shade, and then they go a little bit sunnier. And oh, my smartphone is overheating, by the way. This will turn off probably because of overheating. So I gotta end the stream. It was great to have you guys here. I apologize. Sometimes the old phone gets really hot. But I will be back tomorrow. I love this, and tomorrow we will finish the last 2 or 3 containers that are left. Okay, gotta stop before that whole thing cooks an egg. Okay, guys. Thank you. Take care. Have a good day.